Part 61. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 602. Len Ning was slightly startled. I didn't expect there to be such a willful person. He then said calmly. I would like to thank the Hall Master for taking you in. I thanked him and bowed again. Len Ning didn't reply. I have followed Guoqiudong for many years and know many secrets of Guoqiudong and the Nanjun base. One of the major secrets will definitely be useful to the Hall Master and the Thunder base, and thanks suddenly stopped. And what? Len Ning asked. It's not that she doesn't like this thank you, on the contrary, she appreciates his ability. But she had some taboos in her heart about people who rebelled against her master and turned to the enemy. After all, what she just heard was just one side of his story. If he can betray Guoqiudong today, he might be able to betray her tomorrow. And I also brought all the remaining aircraft in the Southern Army base. A flash of light flashed in his grateful eyes. As long as you nod, the Hall Master, all the helicopters in the Southern Army base can be yours. Not far away, Chen Xing and Han Yu softened their bodies, and a huge sense of despair enveloped their hearts. There are no more helicopters at the Southern military base? Then who can come to save them? Len Ning was shocked. Do you have the remaining 5 helicopters? He asked immediately. Thank you. For a moment. He was a little surprised how Len Ning knew the number of helicopters at the Southern Army base. But he didn't ask. Yet he raised the corner of his mouth with gratitude. Guoqiudong asked me to design a helicopter to deceive Commander Chen. Before departure, I took the opportunity to take all 4 helicopters sent for maintenance. Thanks to Guoqiudong's arrangement, he took them away when the 4 helicopters arrived. No one asked or stopped him. I have heard a lot about the Hall Master's deeds before at Quanglin base. The Hall Master employs people based on merit and follows no particular pattern. Thank you. If you can follow the Hall Master, you will definitely get what you want. Len Ning appreciated the means of gratitude more and more, but at the same time he became more alert and vigilant. What is that big secret? So Chong Xia asked. Xia raised his head and looked at Len Ning. The Hall Master is willing to take me in. Meaning, if you don't want to take me in, you'd better stop asking around. Len Ning. The Hall Master is worried that I might betray you like I betrayed Guoqiudong in the future, Xia suddenly said directly. Len Ning looked at Xia. Do you want to be so smart? He answered the question of thanks with his eyes. He smiled gratefully and said, Master, there is no need to think like this. Len Ning raised the corners of his mouth, waiting to hear the words of gratitude. If I just want to betray Guoqiudong, relying on these 20 helicopters and the secrets of the Southern Army base, no matter which big base I choose to join, I believe they will not reject me. Len Ning nodded. But he is very confident in himself. But I do have the capital to be confident. Good birds choose trees to roost. Xia's identification of the big tree of Hall Master and Thunder base is the result of careful consideration. Xia continued, the inspection time has been long enough, I believe in my own vision. Len Ning looked at Xia. Before the relationship, Thunder base and I were just your backup options, right? Then should I still thank you for choosing me and the Thunder? However, it does seem to make sense. If he had chosen another base, she might not be able to catch a single helicopter now. After all, he has the opportunity and ability to kill Chen Xing and then run away with 20 helicopters. In the current situation of the Southern Army base, it was impossible to catch him without a helicopter. Moreover, even if communications are restored in the future, it may not be that easy to find him at the Southern Army base. Haha, not bad. Len Ning finally spoke out his praise and thanked him. I have 8 sub-rudders under my command now. If you are interested, I can give you the 9th sub-rudder. Len Ning continued. Thanks, his eyes lit up with joy. But it soon calmed down. Only for establishment and not for people, he asked later. Len Ning smiled and said, Yes. But with the name of my fifth branch, there are countless people who want to join me. He nodded gratefully. I know what Len Ning said is true. Is there anyone in the Thunder base who can operate a helicopter? Xie Yi suddenly asked. Len Ning was stunned. There should be her eldest brother, and the four-color group can do it, and so can she. With so many people in the base, maybe we can find a few who know how to do it. The corners of his lips curled up in gratitude. Why don't you, Master, set my ninth rudder as the flight rudder? I mainly train professional pilots. Len Ning's eyes were startled. I felt a little excited. Yeah, she has 20 helicopters now. Do we need a large number of pilots? It is best to select elites from the first and second rudders. After all, pilots have many opportunities to go out. If they are skilled, they can deal with some emergencies when necessary. Xie continued. Len Ning looked at Xie, didn't speak again. Xie quickly bowed his head. He seemed to have accidentally gotten carried away. Haha, okay. That's it, Len Ning suddenly laughed. Sure enough, she came prepared. I am afraid that the elites who have been targeting her for a long time have already been eyeing her. There was ecstasy in his grateful eyes. Thank you, Hall Master, he quickly thanked Len Ning. Len Ning waved his hand in gratitude. Okay. Work hard and don't make me regret seeing the wrong person. Then he smiled. Yes, thank you, with gratitude in your heart. I have long known that the Hall Master is not an ordinary person. Although she is a woman, her heart is broader than that of many men. Value talents and be willing to employ people. This time he really came to the right place. Can you tell me the secret of the Southern Army base now? Len Ning asked with gratitude. Yes, Yi quickly restrained his joy. The Hall Master should know that in addition to military weapons, the Southern Army base also has many powerful people. Thank you, in a deep voice. Len Ning nodded. In addition to what Zhang Huai told her, she also knew about this situation in her previous life. In her previous life, she didn't have Xiaoman, and there were no pills in the Thunder base. The abilities of the superpowers at Thunder base are not growing as fast as those at the Southern Army base. She hadn't thought much about it before. But now that she heard the mention of thanks, she really felt a little strange. Could it be that the Southern Army base also has sky-swallowing vine? Impossible. That's because the military base of the Southern Army has set up a secret base, specializing in making high-level crystal cores. Said thanks. Len Ning's eyes were startled. Can high-level crystal cores still be produced? The laboratory of the Southern Army base discovered that zombies can quickly upgrade and become stronger by eating the same kind of crystal nuclei, and form higher-level crystal nuclei. A flash of light flashed in his eyes. Relying on this discovery, the Southern Army base secretly built a small base dedicated to creating high-level zombies. Then obtain high-level crystal cores from these zombies and give them to those with abilities or potential. Huo Xiao was able to quickly advance to the third level, or even the fourth level, because he had obtained enough high-level thunder cores. Len Ning's heart trembled. Aren't they afraid of creating super zombies by doing this? If the zombies escape, the consequences will be disastrous. Then he frowned. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kge Now. Chapter 603. High-level zombies are the same as high-level superpowers, and their strength is very terrifying. If a large number of high-level zombies are locked up in one place at the same time, if one zombie breaks free, it is very likely that it will join the rest of the zombies and escape together. What's worse is, what if these high-level zombies escape and continue their habit of eating the same kind of crystal cores at the Southern Army base? Will zombies without human intervention continue to grow wildly and become zombie kings or even more terrifying existences? Len Ning didn't dare to think about it further. The Southern Army base did such a thing in vain to consider the survival interests of City B and even the entire other survivors. At that time, People from Guoqiudong had objected to this proposal when the military ministry proposed it. However, because this project can bring huge benefits, the words of these few people did not attract attention at all. Projects supported by Guoqiudong and Chen, how could anyone else stop it? Luckily you didn't go to another base, Len Ning couldn't help but say. Thank you for a moment. I quickly understood the meaning of Len Ning's words. I didn't choose the wrong person. Then he cupped his fists and said to Len Ning. The reason why he chose the hall leader was not only because she hired people on merit, but also because there were secret pills in the Thunder base. If the secret of creating high-level zombie crystal cores was told to other bases, I believe it would be difficult for anyone to stop thinking about it. Such a project has both risks and benefits, but the risk can even be said to be fatal. To put it more seriously, it is asking all mankind to take risks and make profits for themselves. But at this time, everyone is focused on the present. But the Thunder base is an exception. They have mystery pills. Although he has never seen it, he heard that the effect of this pill is even better than the crystal core. I'm very happy that you have this sense of right and wrong in your heart. Len Ning gave Xia a look of affirmation. Thank you, Hall Master, for the compliment. He smiled gratefully. What kind of person is he? Bad guy? It seems that he thinks he is not so bad. There are certain principles and social ethics. Good guy. Among the people he killed, there were also good people. Following Guoqiudong, he did a lot of things against his will. I can't say I feel guilty, but sometimes I feel a little sorry for the people I killed. Now that he saw the Hall Master's attitude, he knew that he could act more openly and openly. Knock knock knock. Suddenly there was a knock on the door outside the office. Hall Master, the 4 Hall Masters are here and they all want to see you. Li Feng's voice soon sounded outside the door. Xie and Len Ning were both stunned. Thanks quickly looked at Len Ning. Haha, Len Ning chuckled at this time. 5 days ago, Xie and Chen Xing took off from Thunder base and returned to the Southern Army base. At that time, people from the 4th Hall quickly inquired about the news and went to her 5th branch. Later, they reported to their elder brother and asked about the matter. After learning that she might get a batch of helicopters, each one of them made an appointment with her elder brother, hoping to get 1 or 2 helicopters in the name of the military department. Naturally, her eldest brother did not agree, and only told them that even if they could get the helicopter, it would still be her private property. Not to mention the military department, even he is not qualified to touch it. The 4 Hall Masters were helpless, knowing that the helicopter would not fall into the pocket of the military headquarters, so they all kept an eye on the 5th branch. As soon as the helicopter landed at Thunder base today, they each received the news. Then he came quickly. The information is quite good, Len Ning muttered. Come in. Len Ning thought for a moment and shouted out the door. Li Feng immediately opened the door and walked in. When he saw Chen Xing sitting on the ground dejectedly in the office, while Xie had already walked to Len Ning's desk, Li Feng felt a little confused. Master, but Li Feng didn't ask any more questions. He just walked to the center of the office and gave Len Ning a fist cup salute. Throw these 2 people into the dungeon for now and take care of them first. Len Ning glanced at Han Yu and Chen Xing. No, I won't go back. I won't go back to that pigsty. Han Yu was frightened and suddenly ran towards the door. Len Ning's eyes turned cold, and a vine quickly flew out and directly wrapped around Han Yu from her upper body to her thighs, tightly controlling her. Let me go, Weavu. Han Yu struggled to get rid of the vines and leaned against the wall in despair. Keep a close eye on the person. If you find him escaping, just cut off his feet without any need to report, Len Ning said solemnly. Han Yu is not worried, but Chen Xing seems to be a superpower and needs some protection. Sure enough, Chen Xing's body trembled when he heard this. Yes, Li Feng replied immediately. Go. Len Ning gave Li Feng a look. Yes, Li Feng immediately walked towards Chen Xing. Then he grabbed Chen Xing's collar and asked him to stand up. Chen Xing knew that he could not escape, so he could only obey Li Feng. Having been taught a lesson, he was very obedient at the moment and did not dare to say a word rashly again. The conversation between Len Ning and Xie Yi just now did not avoid him and Han Yu at all. He was afraid that this was a sure deal. Soon, Li Feng took Chen Xing and Han Yu away. After the three of them went out, Len Ning looked at Xie Yi again. "Let's go and show off my helicopter to the four hall masters," Len Ning said with a smile and stood up from the office chair. Since she was determined to form a flying team, she had no intention of hiding the helicopter from everyone, and she couldn't hide it either. "Thanks," followed by a smile. "Yes." Then he followed Len Ning out the door. In the conference room on the fourth floor, Len Ning and Xie met the four people in the four-color group. Miss Huang Ho saw Len Ning appear first and stood up immediately. The others stood up and said, "Oh, everyone has come together so well," Len Ning said with a smile. "Teacher Zhang is also on the way here. By then, all six of us will be here. Didn't I hear that you got a batch of helicopters, miss? Let's all come to see the excitement and congratulate you," Huang Ho said with a smile. He actually didn't know whether Len Ning got the helicopter or not. He just said this to test. Of course, deep down they also expected this. Now that their Thunder base is developing so well, it would be better if they could have helicopters. Purchasing abroad and exporting goods will be a piece of cake. "Yes, miss, let's show it to everyone," Black Tiger followed. Blue Snake and Red Fox then looked at Len Ning and just smiled without speaking. Len Ning's eyes swept over everyone's faces one by one. "Let me introduce you to someone first," then he suddenly said. Everyone was stunned. "This is a thank you. He was one of the representatives sent by the Southern Army base to negotiate with me. He was also the leader of the team sent by the Southern Army base to City A to plan for the major bases to fight against our Thunder base." Len Ning stretched out his hand to thanks. He introduced to everyone. The four hall masters were startled. There was a hint of embarrassment on his grateful face, but he quickly calmed down his expression and bowed to the four hall masters. "You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 604. Thank you for meeting all the hall masters. He knew in his heart that the hall master had no other meaning when he told the four major hall masters. Instead, he valued his performance. He is about to take up an important position under the hall master, and he doesn't know how many pairs of eyes will be staring at him and his background. Rather than waiting to be discovered and exposed to criticism and suspicion, it is better to announce these things from the beginning to avoid subsequent troubles. The hall master did this out of consideration for him. The four hall masters all looked at Xie. "That's right. You brought the helicopter." Huang Hao was the first to speak. Gratitude dash. Back to hall master Huang Hao. "Yes," he replied awkwardly. Huang Hao's eyes lit up. He looked at everyone and laughed. "You have good eyesight, you recognize me." "Ha ha." The others also laughed. "I have been working in intelligence before, so why is it so strange to recognize you?" Blue Snake chimed in. "How many helicopters are there?" then he asked with a smile and thanks. The others also smiled and looked at Xie. Xie was startled and looked at Len Ning. These four hall masters seemed to be really approachable. Len Ning nodded gratefully. "Ahem, 20 in total," Xie said, barely holding back the smile on his lips. A flash of light flashed in the eyes of the four hall masters, and their expressions of gratitude became even more loving. "What conditions did our hall master Len give you to make you abandon the dark side and join the bright side?" Huang Ho looked at Len Ning with envy. Xie's face was slightly stiff. "You don't have to worry about the conditions. Thank you for being my treasure now. From today on, I will be the helmsman of the 9th branch." Len Ning made his debut. "By the way, Don't be greedy for the helicopter, I've already planned it. My ninth branch is set as the flight branch. It is dedicated to training pilots and performing flight missions. 4 color groups. Miss Huanghao was the first to hold back. There are 20 helicopters. Even if they are given one to each of them, she still has 15. This is what a solitary eater eats. It's enough for your eyes. It's okay to let you test drive it. Len Ning glanced at Huangho and said with a smile. Everyone, look at me, and I'll look at you. My heart was a little moved, but I felt a little uncomfortable. I'm afraid you'll be even more greedy once you're addicted to it. I'm afraid you'll be even more reluctant to part with it after a test drive. Of course, you can also send some qualified soldiers to our ninth branch to learn driving skills. Although the helicopter can't be sent to you, it's okay to borrow it once or twice occasionally. Who told me to be so easy to talk to? Len Ning said cheerfully. The fourth hall master, you are really easy to talk to. Count me in for a test drive. At this moment, Red Fox suddenly said. I'll go too, Huang Ho followed. And me, Blue Snake followed closely. I'm coming too, Black Tiger said quickly. Okay, let's go, big guy. Len Ning raised the corner of his mouth and turned around to leave. Everyone followed, and the group headed towards the vegetable base talking and laughing. When they arrived at the place, everyone discovered that apart from them, most of the senior officials of the 5th branch were also there. Needless to say, Sun Qi, the deputy hall leader, as well as Zhou Tao, Yuan Xing, Zheng Peng, and others, almost all the helmsmen and deputy helmsmen were not left behind. You are not here to test drive the helicopter, are you? Huang Hao stood far away and asked Sun Qi and others. Sun Qi smiled and said, how can we? We just came to see the excitement and admire our leader's flying style. We people don't have the skill yet. It's a pity that he didn't learn helicopter driving in the army, otherwise he wouldn't be able to fly it now. He can show off his skills with the big guys. But it doesn't matter. Now that their 5th branch has an expert helmsman, isn't it easy to learn to fly a helicopter? There is no need to think about it, this group of people will definitely be the first batch of students of the 9th branch. Haha. Young lady can also fly a helicopter. Huang Ho was a little confused and looked at Len Ning. Not only him, the other 3 hall masters were also surprised. But after just a moment, they were no longer curious. Since the end of the world, is this the only surprising thing that has happened to their young lady? Len Ning didn't even explain. He went to the open space and took out all the helicopters in the space jade. A total of 5 helicopters were quickly arranged neatly in front of everyone. Then, Xie took out another piece of space jade and took out 5 helicopters from it. Just when everyone was talking about it, and some people even took out their mobile phones to take pictures, Zhang Huai arrived. Without saying a word, Len Ning asked him to take out the remaining 10 helicopters. In this way, a large area of the huge venue was occupied by the helicopter. That's great. With this, we can go wherever we want, Haihu said, touching a helicopter. I heard that Xian City is rich in jade. I really want to fly there and have a look right away, Blue Snake followed. I would like to go to Kyoto. It was the capital of China before the end of the world. It may not have been captured by zombies, Red Fox said. Haha, stop talking. Try it first and then talk, Huang Ho said and opened the helicopter's cabin door. Just try it, Red Fox smiled, then opened the cabin door and got on a helicopter. Blue Snake and Black Tiger looked at each other and followed the instructions. Len Ning was not idle either and also chose a helicopter. Soon, 5 helicopters took off one after another. The feeling of soaring off the ground is simply not good. Seeing the people and objects on the ground become smaller, it really feels like gaining freedom. Since the end of the world, they have been trapped in the Thunder base most of the time. Even if I go out, I always go out in a hurry and rush back. Where can I have the fun of going on vacation or shopping before the end of the world? Sitting in the helicopter, although it was noisy, they were flying high and they didn't have to worry about being attacked by zombies. They could go wherever they wanted. It was so comfortable. 5 helicopters were arrogantly hovering over Thunder Base, which shocked the soldiers and residents of Thunder Base. Then came the cheers. Many people began to speculate whether a rescue team had arrived and whether there were still places that had not been overrun by zombies. Of course, since Len Ning deliberately let the 5th branch release the news, everyone soon knew that this was just the 5th branch of their Thunder Base conducting aircraft test flights. Soldiers and residents were excited to hear the news. They now have aircraft at the Thunder Base and are stronger than before. The Thunder Safe Zone will be extremely powerful in the future. Len Ning flew the plane and circled in the air for a few times, then separated from the group of people and drove the plane farther away. The feeling of soaring high into the sky was so good that she couldn't stop. It was just for fun anyway, so she might as well fly around the major urban areas in City A to let other bases in City A see the strength of their Thunder Base. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Ki Now. Chapter 605. When the 4-color group saw Len Ning driving away from the Thunder Base, they followed him one by one. In this way, the 5 helicopters were led by Len Ning, and the other 4 helicopters were divided into 2 rows and followed Len Ning neatly towards the city. The people on the ground looked gratefully at the formation in the sky with some admiration in their hearts. I really didn't expect that the driving skills of the Hall Master and the 4 Hall Masters are so good. Yi couldn't help but sigh. Does that need to be said? Our Hall Master is extremely talented. As long as he knows how to do it, he will be outstanding in everything, Zhou Tao continued. He looked as cool as Len Ning, just like himself. As expected of our Hall Master, the other helmsmen also followed suit. It is as if, in the hearts of the major helmsmen, their Hall Master is truly a godlike existence. It's a pity, I can't fly a helicopter. Zhang Huai looked at the sky and said with some envy. He is now considered the leader of the 6th branch of the Thunder Base, the same rank as the 4 leaders and Len Ning. Seeing that they could fly in the sky, he was really envious. Brother Xie, let me learn driving with you for a few days. Zhang Huai quickly walked to Xie Yi. Thank you. I just wanted to answer. However, he saw that the helmsmen of the 5th branch were also surrounding him. We are our own brothers, no matter what happens, we should consider our own people first. I will sign up first, Zhou Tao said. And me, Yuan Xing followed. There's me too. For a moment everyone spoke. Thank you. I have never enjoyed such a warm attitude from others. It is simply too much. Brother, after joining the 5th branch, we are a family. How can you do good things without taking care of your family first? Seeing that no one thanked anyone in reply, Zhou Tao spoke up. Yes, we will take you back to the villa area later. The room is ready, Li Qiang followed. Brothers will book a table at Lin's tonight, and I'll take care of you. Zhang Peng glanced at his good brothers. Okay. If you don't welcome our brothers from the 5th branch, who will? Zhou Tao said cheerfully. Thank you. Just as you were about to answer and agree, Zhang Huai spoke again. You little bastards are fighting over me, a teacher. I'm older than you, and I'm still your teacher, so you can't let me go. These words contained some joking elements, and Zhang Huai and everyone immediately started fighting. One slice. Because you are our teacher, the 2nd batch of places will be given to you. Don't compete with us, you can't compete, Zhou Tao said with a smile. Teacher Zhang is really becoming more and more energetic and is much more fun than before the end of the world. Who wants the 2nd batch of places? I'm the only one. One more is not more, one less is not a lot. I will learn with you, Zhang Huai said shamelessly. By the way, this meal to catch the wind and wash away the dust, also bring it with you. I just came to the Thunder base to be the Hall Master, and you welcomed me by the way. Thank you, brother. What do you think? Zhang Huai expressed his thanks loudly. As for training pilots, thank you, this is a good place. What if their sixth branch can get a helicopter in the future? Even if you can't get a helicopter, you can still borrow it when needed. Only with a pilot can we borrow a helicopter later, right? Thank you, and looked at the rest of the fifth branch. He knew early on that Zhang Huai was the former teacher of their hall master and the two helmsmen. He had just heard about the fact that he had merged the Quanglan base into Thunder and became the leader of the sixth branch. Looking at this situation, it seems that Mr. Zhang has a good relationship with their fifth branch. Okay, Teacher Zhang is not an outsider. He's just with us. Brother, do you think so? Zhou Tao immediately asked in a loud voice to thank him. The others also nodded. Okay, thanks, finally answered. Zhang Huai looked happy and continued to mingle with the people in the fifth branch. The faces of the other people in the branch hall were full of envy. Didn't it mean that the new hall master Zhang had offended hall master Leng? The superiors had specifically told Rang to keep a certain distance from the sixth branch, but now it doesn't seem like that at all. On the other side, Len Ning and the four hall masters drove helicopters from the city to the east of the city. During this period, because Len Ning had been deliberately hovering over some major bases, basically all major bases discovered the existence of helicopters. Len Ning took the four hall masters to show off at various bases before returning to the Thunder base. By the time they returned, the senior officials of JAC and the fifth branch had almost drawn up the list of the first group of people to learn driving. Most of them are naturally from the fifth branch. Because Zhang Huai kept asking, Zhou Tao gave him a few more places. As soon as Len Ning got off the helicopter, Zhou Tao approached him like a treasure. Lord Master, we have almost drawn up the list of people who will join the ninth branch to learn flight piloting, he said, and immediately handed over a piece of paper. The rest of the fifth hall looked at Len Ning with smiles. The people in the other branch halls not far away were different. When they saw their hall leader coming back, they hurried up to report that the leaders of the fifth and sixth branch halls had drafted the list while they were away. When the four hall masters heard this, they thought it was a big deal. He quickly found Len Ning. Len Ning had already read the list at this time and had not had time to give instructions. Miss. Pilot training is of great significance to the major branches. Except for your fifth branch, why not take some quotas and share them equally among the major branches? Blue Snake said loudly from a distance. He stopped Len Ning before she could speak. Yes, miss, this is the fairest, Red Fox followed. I agree, Yellow Monkey glanced at Blue Snake and Red Fox and followed. Now that they have lost the opportunity, there is still some hope for justice. That kid from Zhang Huai is so cunning that he even tried to take advantage of them when they weren't looking. I agree too, Black Tiger followed. All the helmsmen of the fifth hall looked at Len Ning. They had no problem with it. Anyway, the flight branch is in their hands, and the interests of other branches are not within their consideration. They are very satisfied that the major branches can admit that their people have priority. Zhang Huai looked a little sad. But in front of the four hall masters, he didn't dare to say anything. Everyone said that except for the fifth branch, all other halls have equal numbers of people. He is a newcomer, how dare he say that he wants more than others? He didn't have the nerve to mention it, and he didn't dare to mention it. If he mentioned it, it would be strange if these people didn't unite to isolate him. Len Ning glanced at Zhang Huai. Seeing that he didn't speak, he nodded. Okay. That's it then he said. Thank you. It's up to you to decide the number of students in the first batch. Len Ning looked at the thank you. Yes, Hall Master, Xie immediately accepted the order. Sun Chi. Len Ning thought for a while and shouted again. Here, Hall Master, Sun Chi said quickly. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Qi Ji Now. Chapter 606. Thank you for being the new guy. Please give him a little more attention during this period. Make sure that arrangements are made for him in all aspects of equipment and manpower, Len Ning said. Yes, Sun Chi replied immediately. Thank you, Hall Master. A touch of emotion rose in Xiaoyi's eyes. The Hall Master valued him more than he thought. Moreover, whether it was the fifth branch or other branches, they accepted him more than he thought. It was a wise choice for him to come to the Thunder Base. Yeah, Len Ning responded. Let's all disperse. Then he looked at the crowd and said. More and more people are gathering together. Everyone is watching the plane, and they don't have to go to work? Yes, everyone clasped their fists at Len Ning and then reluctantly left. As they walked, they continued to talk about helicopters with great interest. Li Feng looking at the backs of everyone leaving, Len Ning shouted. Here, Hall Master. Li Feng immediately walked from the side to Len Ning and stood by. I leave my thanks to you. You take him to settle down first, and take him to get acquainted with our fifth branch in the past few days, Len Ning instructed. Li Feng smiled and glanced at Xie. Yes, then he rushed to Len Ning to take orders. Len Ning then looked at Xie again. I'll take 2 of the helicopters and leave the rest to you. Start working on the 9th branch as soon as possible. She must put 1 in the space ring, and her elder brother must also give him 1. The rest was left to the 9th division. Yes, he clasped his fists in thanks. Yeah. That's all, Len Ning said and walked towards the helicopter. After picking up the 2 helicopters, they drove away. Where to? Naturally, he went to find Thunder. Lei Lei was dealing with important matters in the office, and someone had already informed him of the news outside. It's just that he has something urgent to do and can't get out of it for the moment. Now that I have just finished my work and am about to leave to find Len Ning, someone has already come to my door. Everyone went to test drive or visit my helicopter, but you didn't go. Len Ning glanced at Lei Lei resentfully and walked towards him. Seeing Lei Ting trying to pull her into his arms, Len Ning dodged it. Then he walked around behind Lei Ting and pressed his shoulders. Lei Lei felt warm in his heart and did not refuse. Busy about arranging some trivial matters. Once arranged, I will have more time to spend with you, Lei Lei said with a slight smile on his lips. Now that we have a helicopter, you really have to accompany me for a walk. Len Ning had a smile on his face. Thinking of something, he stopped massaging Lei Lei and took out a space jade from his space ring. This is for you. Then he placed the space jade on Lei Lei's desk. Seeing Lei Lei looking at him, helicopter for you, then he said. Lei Lei raised the corner of his mouth and said, thank you, wife. He accepted Len Ning's kindness. Len Ning's cheeks turned red. He cooperated with Lei Lei and sat in his arms. Where do you want to play? I'm free in the afternoon, Lei Lei said dotingly. It's fine to go anywhere. Len Ning was in a good mood. Lei Lei chuckled softly, haha, then this is difficult to handle. How do I choose? How about going to City B? Len Ning said suddenly. City B? Lei Lei asked, frowning slightly. We're not going to the Southern Army base, but to see Xiaobeo's grandfather. Don't Mr. Yang have some friendship with you? Len Ning said. The Southern Army base doesn't know yet about her gratitude for joining her. They are probably still waiting for Chen Xin to take Han Yu back. Haha, speaking of it, she really wanted to visit the Southern Army base. Exciting that old guy in Korea building. Lei Lei was stunned and his brows widened. We do have some friendship. He is also our elder. Now that we are married, I might as well take you to visit him, he then said. Then let's set off after lunch. Len Ning's eyes lit up and he got up from Lei Ting. Naturally, this trip to B City was not only to visit Mr. Yang, but also to open up the B City market. There are too many products at the Thunder base, so we have to find a way to sell them overseas, right? City B is adjacent to City A, so they must be given priority. The Southern Army base had previously roped in Kuanglan to deal with Thunder, but now it was time to do the opposite. In addition, Aunt Yang and Xiaobao have been with the Lei family and the fifth branch for a long time after all, and it is time to help them find their relatives. Okay, Lei Ting followed Len Ning's pull and stood up. Then he took Len Ning to eat. After dinner, the two of them went for a walk to the vegetable base. Along the way, Len Ning told Lei Ting about his gratitude and his arrangements for the ninth branch of the fifth branch. Yes. Once the pilots are trained, they can be sent out to open up the market. Lei agreed and supported Len Ning's idea. You have the most assets in the Thunder base right now, so it would be most appropriate for you to place the flight control unit under your command. Len Ning said with a smile, although there are 18 helicopters, sooner or later there won't be enough. Just let me take care of them first. I think that when doing business with outsiders, we should discuss it in the name of Thunder Base as a whole. When there are more helicopters in the future, we can make arrangements accordingly. It's only the first year of the apocalypse, and they have helicopters. Things will definitely get better and better in the future. It's a pity that in her previous life she didn't pay attention to find out that some bases actually sold helicopters to external parties. If they know the address, they can go and purchase a batch in person. Yes. Let your fifth branch take the lead on this matter, Lei said. If you need assistance from other branches, remember to tell me. Len Ning smiled and glanced at Lei. I don't have to tell you that they are very cooperative with me. It's not that she's talking big, it's that the current four halls simply can't do without her. Except for arms, Thunder Base's industries are basically based on its vegetable base. Without the vegetable base, everything will collapse. There is also the military's secret weapon mysterious pills, the raw materials of which are also provided by her. They are polite and even flattering to themselves, not just because of their status. This time she got a helicopter but didn't send it out, and they didn't dare to say anything, especially for this reason. In the face of absolute advantages and strength, people will be convinced. Lei Ting glanced at Len Ning, his eyes full of endearment. Then his big hand stretched out and took Len Ning into his arms. Len Ning did not struggle and generously enjoyed Lei Ting's care. The two of them held hands and continued walking towards the vegetable base. It didn't take long for the two of them to reach their destination. Lei took out the helicopter and personally drove the helicopter to take Len Ning off. After the helicopter took off, it circled twice in the air and then headed towards City B. Lei drove the helicopter and had a panoramic view of the beautiful scenery on the ground, and felt a sense of comfort and relaxation in his heart. I am looking forward to visiting my old friend this time. The speed of the plane was indeed much higher than that of the car. It didn't take long for the two of them to find and arrive at the Yangdao base controlled by Mr. Yang. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 607. When the people at Yangdao base saw the helicopter arriving, they all thought it was someone from the Southern Army base. It turned out that the plane landed in a different location than before. However, they had some suspicions but didn't think much about it. When Lei stopped the helicopter, someone had already come to greet him. The person who came was a team leader named Mengmao from Yangdao base, who was considered one of Mr. Yang's cronies. Mengmao was a little surprised when he saw a pair of handsome men and beautiful women getting off the helicopter. Lei Ting and Len Ning were both extraordinary in appearance and temperament, and he didn't know how to deal with them for a moment. Where are the two distinguished guests from? Mengmao's intuition told him that these two people might not be from the Southern Army base, so he stepped forward and asked. This guess made him a little excited. Currently, their Yangdao base is being oppressed by the Southern Army base, and their life is difficult and useless. If a base with the same strength as the Southern Army base really emerges, Maybe they can have other options. Take me to see Mr. Yang, Lei Lei said directly. Meng Mao was stunned. Do you know our city lord, who Yang Lao was referring to didn't require much thought. Let's just say that a friend from before the end of the world came to see him. Tell me your name, Thunder. Len Ning walked forward with a smile. Meng Mao was shocked. Thunder? Isn't this Mr. Lei from City before the end of the world? I still have a good relationship with their city lord. After he came to the city lord, he would occasionally hear the city lord mention it. Master Lei, miss, please come with me, Meng Mao said excitedly. Hurry and lead the way. Mr. Lei came to see the city lord. This is great news. Len Ning gave Lei Ting a smile and walked to the front. Lei Lei smiled fondly and followed. Then, Meng Mao took the two of them to Yang's house. Len Ning visited all the way and found that the structure of this place was quite similar to the Zhang family's main palace, but it was not as big and noble as the Zhang family's house. Lei Lei and Len Ning only waited in the living room for a while before Mr. Yang came. Rare visitor. Rare visitor. Mr. Lei actually thought of me, a bad old man, a strong voice was heard from outside the living room. Then, an energetic old man walked in. This is Mr. Yang. Meng Mao was followed behind Mr. Yang. Seeing that Mr. Yang was walking in a hurry, he made a gesture of being ready to help him at any time. Mr. Yang. Lei Lei turned around and called. Seeing an acquaintance, a rare smile appeared on his face. Mr. Yang looked at Lei Ting, and then quickly looked at Len Ning beside him. Who is this? Although he asked, his eyes were filled with an ambiguous smile. It was obvious that he had guessed the relationship between the two. Lei Lei took Len Ning's hand and introduced generously, my new wife Len Ning. After saying that, Lei Lei looked at Len Ning again and motioned for her to call someone. Hello, Mr. Yang. I heard my elder brother talking about you before. It's better to meet you than to be famous. Len Ning smiled and stretched out his hand. Yang Lao was stunned and gave Lei Ting a you can do it look. Then he walked over and reached out to shake Len Ning's hand. Len Ning, old man, I know you. Before, I was wondering why Mr. Lei didn't fall in love. It turns out that he has already been in love for a long time. Before the end of the world, he had a lot of contacts with Lei Lei, and he saw with his own eyes what he had done to his little boy. My wife called. At that time, I was just humming my sister. At that time, he was surprised that Mr. Lei's smile and gentle tone didn't make him look like he was on the phone with his god sister. He was clearly his lover's sister. Not bad, not bad, Mr. Lei's little wife is good looking, not stage frightened, and has a certain sense of style. Haha, that's it. Len Ning looked at Lei Ting with a smile. Thunder looked a little embarrassed. Ahem, Mr. Yang, please don't tear me down, okay. Seeing that Len Ning was about to join forces with Mr. Yang to laugh at him, Lei Lei said with a smile. Haha. Well, it's rare for Mr. Lei to be embarrassed. The old man has seen something today. Mr. Yang said with a smile. You have come a long way, let's sit down and talk. Then Mr. Yang looked at the chair not far away. Yeah, Lei Lei responded, and he and Len Ning went to sit down on a chair not far away. Mr. Yang did not sit in the main seat, but sat across from the two of them, so that he could talk to them more easily. I heard that you two came by helicopter, Mr. Yang finally couldn't help but ask. Yes, Thunder replied. Yang Lao's eyes lit up. Do you have a helicopter there too? He continued to ask. Meng Mao said that Mr. Lei's helicopter model is exactly the same as that of the Southern Army base. Is it possible that he has something to do with the Southern Army base? He must figure this out. Lei Lei looked at Len Ning. Yang Lao also looked at Len Ning with doubts in his eyes. Is the word "yeah" in Mr. Yang related to the Southern Army base? Len Ning said with a smile. Don't answer the question. Yang Lao was stunned. As expected, they knew about the Confederate military base. Seeing that Mr. Yang didn't reply, Len Ning raised the corner of his mouth again. Our helicopter does come from the Southern Army base. Mr. Yang's expression suddenly darkened. Why did you come to me? Mr. Yang's tone was serious. Len Ning looked at Lei Lei with a smile. Okay, stop playing around. Tell Mr. Yang the situation quickly, Lei Lei said to Len Ning. This girl is the only one who dares to tease Mr. Yang. Mr. Yang frowned. I can't understand what this couple's plan is. Don't worry, Mr. Yang. We are here just to catch up with you. It has nothing to do with the Southern Army base, Len Ning finally said to Mr. Yang. As for that helicopter, it did come from the Southern Army base. But how it came from is definitely different from what you think. Mr. Yang's frown deepened. Len Ning glanced at Lei Lei, and finally told Mr. Yang that Xia Yu had brought all the helicopters in the Southern Army base to join her. Mr. Yang was shocked when he heard this. Amazing. Amazing. The old man has seen something today. After hearing this, Mr. Yang looked at Len Ning with wonder in his eyes. He originally thought that Mr. Lei's little wife was better looking and more courageous, but he didn't expect that her skills were not inferior to Mr. Lei's. Only one woman was used to plot against Guoqiudong and take away all the helicopters at the South Army base. It is simply admirable. Len Ning had a smile on her lips, feeling very grateful for Mr. Yang's praise. In this life, she has done many great things since the end of the world, and this is the most satisfying one among them. But are you sure you really got all the helicopters in the Southern Army base? Mr. Yang was excited for a moment and asked Len Ning and Lei Lei. Haha, if Mr. Yang doesn't believe it, you can wait and see. See if the Southern Army base can still fly a helicopter to your place, Len Ning said with some confidence. Haha. Well done. Well done, Mr. Yang finally laughed excitedly. That piece of shit in South Korea building, with the helicopter at hand, threatens and exploits our bases in City B. If there is no helicopter, let's see how he can collect money. Oh, Lei Lei asked doubtfully. The wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Ki Now. Chapter 608. Mr. Yang glanced at the two of them, sighed, and finally said, you don't know that there are so many zombies in City B. Basically, all major bases have encountered zombie waves? Len Ning and Lei Lei looked at each other. This situation is not unique to City B. The situation in City A is actually the same. The Southern Army base is the strongest base in B City. About 3 or 4 months ago, Guoqiudong sent people to visit the major bases one after another. He said that he was willing to provide assistance to the major bases and would help them at critical times. Encircle and destroy the zombie wave. Len Ning glanced at Lei Lei. Isn't this a good thing? He asked Mr. Yang. A good thing, Mr. Yang said disdainfully. At first, everyone really thought it was a good thing, so they agreed to the conditions of the Southern Army base and paid them monthly aid. However, it was later discovered that this was completely a trap. What do you mean? Len Ning asked. Their Thunder base never charges fees for assisting other bases, but she also agrees with the practice of charging for assistance. After all, in the last days, everyone has a hard time surviving, and no one has the responsibility to help others for free. Basically all the bases in City B have paid aid to the Southern Army base, but when they encounter a zombie wave, they rarely take action, Mr. Yang said angrily. In short, it's rescue. It's just a gimmick. The Southern military base only collects money and doesn't contribute at all. Len Ning's face darkened slightly. It seems that she still underestimated the shamelessness of Guoqiudong. At the beginning of every month, helicopters from the Southern Army base will arrive. We have to give them crystal cores, Mr. Yang sighed. There were small bases that did not cooperate before, but the result was that the Southern Army base used them to scare the monkeys and killed them directly. As a result, the bases behind them had to succumb to the power of the Southern Army base. Yuya provided them with crystal cores and acquiesced to their bullying methods. But it's okay now. If the Southern Army base really loses its helicopters, let's see how they will collect money. Len Ning glanced at Lei Lei, and then continued to look at Mr. Yang. Have you never thought of uniting to boycott and fight against the Southern Army base? Len Ning asked. Why haven't I thought about it? But looking around, we can't find a base that has the capital to confront the Southern Army base, Mr. Yang said, suddenly looking at Lei Lei with burning eyes. Although he has never been to the Thunder base, he has great faith in Mr. Lei's abilities. And his newlywed wife, an important figure in the Southern Army base, can bring all the helicopters to seek refuge with her, so her strength must be unfathomable. Young Master Lei, Hall Master Len, your trip. Mr. Yang had already caught an unusual aura. Lei Lei glanced at Len Ning, and finally said to Mr. Yang, firstly, I am bringing Xiao Ning to meet her elders and meet friends. Secondly, I also want to know about the situation of Yangdao base. As for the third one. Lei Lei, there was a hint of smile in his eyes. Seeing this, Mr. Yang started laughing and said, and the third one? Len Ning also smiled. Are you talking about Xiaobao and Ant Yang? Thirdly, Chang Lei asked. The corners of Lei Lei's lips raised in recognition. Mr. Yang looked confused. I don't understand the riddle between these two couples. Okay, don't be pretentious. Let me do it, Len Ning said with a smile. Ant Yang's name is Yang Meijun. According to what the elder brother said before, she should be Mr. Yang's daughter. Len Ning looked at Mr. Yang and said, Xiaobao is the nickname of her son Liang Ziyu. Mr. Yang was startled, and then his eyes turned ecstatic. Where are Meijun and Xiaobao? He stood up and asked. Len Ning looked at Lei Lei with a smile and nodded to Mr. Yang. Yes. Ant Yang is now working as a housekeeper in our Lei family, helping to take care of the family. As for Xiaobao, Len Ning couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth when thinking of Xiaobao. Where is Xiaobao? Mr. Yang asked expectantly. This grandson, he only knew of his existence, but had never actually met him. After the apocalypse, he has been trying to find out the whereabouts of their mother and son. Unfortunately, communication and transportation have been cut off, and he has the intention but is unable to do so. Today, young Master Lei and Hall Master Len came to his place. He intended to ask them to help find someone, but he didn't have time to propose it yet. But it's fine now. Mr. Lei unexpectedly found them first and took them back to Lei's house for protection. Len Ning said with a smile on his face, your grandson is not an ordinary person. Despite his young age, he has extraordinary talents. Oh, Yang Lao's eyes flashed with excitement. Xiaobao is also a superpower? What superpower did he awaken? He asked immediately. It is a very rare healing power. Now the level of the power has reached the 4th level. Len Ning's eyes glowed. Xiaobao is currently working in the medical department of my 5th branch. Yes, serve. Although it is only a technical position, it is enough to amaze everyone. After all, Xiaobao's age is there. When he heard Len Ning say that Xiaobao's power was healing, the spark in Yang's eyes dimmed for a moment. But soon, he returned to his happy expression. He intended to let his grandson take over his position in the future and take good care of and run the Yangdao base for him. If Xiaobao was a combat-type superpower, all this would be much easier. Because he will definitely do his best to train his grandson into a strong combat-type superpower, and then give him the opportunity to step into the power center of Yangdao base step by step. However, it doesn't matter even if it's a support system user. After all, it is a 4th level healing system. If you look at the entire B city, you probably won't be able to find a few powerful people with 4th level abilities. Although the future process will take some time, he can still arrange it slowly. Great. How did you find them? Mr. Yang excitedly asked Lei Ting and Len Ning. I just happened to recognize Ant Yang from Lei's house that Xiao Ning brought back, Lei Lei said with a smile. Mr. Yang immediately looked at Len Ning with a smile. It's a coincidence. At that time, The apocalypse had just begun. Our uncle Liang said he wanted to go back to his hometown to pick up his relatives, so I took people with me to help. I never thought that Uncle Liang's relatives did not receive the call, but they saved Mei Jun and Xiaobao. Len Ning said with a smile, they are actually from the same village. The smile on Mr. Yang's face suddenly faded. Liang Huai is here too, that bitch deceived his daughter and made his daughter and grandson suffer. But he never waited for the opportunity to deal with him. Len Ning was stunned. That man was as timid as a rat. I was afraid of being a drag, so I left him alone. Then he said directly. She had regrets about leaving Liang Huai behind. Thinking that that man was Xiaobao's father after all, and the relationship between her and Xiaobao was getting closer and closer. But after understanding the entanglement between Liang Huai and the Yang family and Aunt Yang, she felt much more relieved. If she had really brought someone like Liang Huai with her at that time, not to mention the danger on the road, he would also be a trouble later. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 609. A flash of resentment flashed in Yang Lao's eyes. He was really given an advantage, and then said. Lei Lei and Len Ning looked at each other and tacitly chose to remain silent. Come here, do Mei Jun and Xiaobao know? As if he remembered something, Mr. Yang continued to ask the two of them. I came here on a temporary basis and they didn't know about it, Len Ning replied with a smile. Mr. Yang's expression became more relaxed. I guess that's the case. Then his expression turned sad. Before, he was so unfeeling towards his daughter. She must hate herself. And Xiaobao, I wonder if he knows that a grandpa like him exists. I will tell Aunt Yang and Xiaobao about this when I get back, and find time to reunite your family, Len Ning said. Mr. Yang immediately looked at Len Ning gratefully. There's no rush in this matter, then he suddenly said anxiously. Len Ning was confused. Mr. Yang smiled awkwardly. I have to get ready. Then he looked at Lei Lei. Lei Ting gave Len Ning a look. Len Ning didn't ask any more questions. The eldest brother had told her before that Mr. Yang had deliberately allowed Aunt Yang to be wronged outside for the sake of Aunt Yang's safety. Now that he has learned that Aunt Yang and Xiaobao are whereabouts and safe, it is normal to have emotions that he dare not face. Mr. Yang, you don't have to think too much. If you don't want to see them rashly, you can come with us to the Thunder Base as a guest and take a look at them, Len Ning said with a smile. I said this because I really wanted to help their family reunite. Secondly, they also wanted to take the opportunity to win over Mr. Yang and make him favor their Thunder Base. It would be best to allow Yangdao Base to contain the Southern Army Base in City B. If not, preventing Yangdao Base from favoring the Southern Army Base would also weaken the strength of the Southern Army Base. Mr. Yang was stunned for a moment, and a look of emotion flashed in his eyes. But it only took a moment for that touch of emotion to disappear, turning into calmness and wisdom. Lei Lei also looked at Mr. Yang. If Mr. Yang is willing, you can go and sit at the Thunder Base. He sent a formal invitation to Mr. Yang. Mr. Yang's eyes swept across the faces of Lei Ting and Len Ning one by one, and he didn't reply for a long time. We won't force it, Len Ning suddenly said. She sent this invitation with good intentions, but the look in his eyes made her feel uncomfortable. Yang Lao was stunned and quickly looked away. Let's not talk about this anymore. Now that we are here, would we be honored to visit your knife-raising base? Lei Lei asked Mr. Yang. Of course. I will show you personally, Mr. Yang readily agreed. Let's go, let's talk. As we walk, Mr. Yang seemed to feel energetic all of a sudden, stood up directly, and then walked out. Lei Lei glanced at Len Ning, then stood up and stretched out his hand to her. Len Ning understood, smiled, and stretched out his little hand. So the two of them joined hands and followed Mr. Yang. Mr. Yang walked out of the hall and saw the intimate look of the two people behind him, and his heart and face were filled with smiles. This Mr. Lei, I didn't expect that he would look like this when he was affectionate. Next, Mr. Yang, accompanied by Meng Mao, took Lei Ting and Len Ning to visit the Yangdao base. Along the way, Len Ning saw what he saw and found that the situation at Yangdao base was not good. Almost all the people I saw on the road were emaciated and malnourished. Most of the buildings here are dilapidated, the garbage on the road is not cleaned up, and there are even homeless people sleeping directly on the roadside. When he saw the homeless man, Mr. Yang frowned unconsciously. He only heard him give a few instructions to Meng Mao beside him, and Meng Mao left. Seeing the confusion on Len Ning's face, Mr. Yang explained, the food supply in the public camp is limited, and some people always sneak out. Usually, there are people with superpowers patrolling here. Once discovered, these people will be taken back to prevent them from dying on the roadside and causing safety hazards. I guess he just came here. Mr. Yang looked at the homeless man. Because of the shortage of food, it is common for people to starve to death in the base. If you just starve to death in the camp, because there are people stationed there, someone will deal with it immediately, and it won't cause any big trouble. But if they starve to death outside, they can easily hurt ordinary people and cause harm. Is there no food for sale at the Southern Army base? Len Ning asked. According to what he said before, the Southern Army base can produce high-level zombie crystal cores. Some superpowers with high talents can successfully advance to the third level and then the fourth level by absorbing high-level crystal nuclei. In a base, as long as there is a level 4 or above wood element user, the entire base will no longer be hungry. Even if there are no wood-type superpowers of level 4 or above, a few more wood-type superpowers of level 3 or above can provide a large amount of food for the base by spawning crops such as sweet potatoes, and there will be no such thing as someone suffering from hunger. The phenomenon of running out of the camp if you can't. At this time, each base has too much time to take care of itself. How can it be possible to sell food to outsiders? Mr. Yang said with an anxious look. He has been to the Southern Army base several times, and the living environment there is much better than theirs. At least there were almost no cases of people starving to death in the Confederate military bases. We sell food to outsiders. Len Ning raised the corner of his mouth and said with a smile. It was pretty much what she thought. It seemed that there were no wood-type superpowers above the fourth level at the Southern Army base. As for wood-type superpowers above level 3, even if they exist, they are probably not many in number. Otherwise, it would not be too easy to earn crystal cores by selling food to others at this time. This is basically consistent with what she knew in her previous life. Maybe it's because Kwarongdong is too heavy on weapons, and those with auxiliary abilities don't get much supplies. In her previous life, she left the Thunder base, and after arriving at the Southern Army base, she used her wood power to do something for them for a period of time. At that time, her wood-type abilities were almost top-notch in the Southern Army base. Thinking about it this way, maybe the number of third-level and above wood-type superpowers currently in the Southern Army base may be even smaller. It is even very likely that they are still using second-level wood-type superpowers to promote crops. Mr. Yang was shocked. Then his face suddenly turned happy. Then he quickly stopped smiling. You really sell food to others? The price is very expensive, right? Chong Len Ning asked, feeling anxious at the moment. How powerful does the Thunder base have to be to sell food to the outside world? Is there really a base stronger than the Confederate Army base? It's not expensive. Len Ning smiled and said, this is the price list, take a look. Then he took a document from the space ring and gave it to Mr. Yang. Old General Yang took the document in doubt. After opening it, when I saw the content above, I could hardly believe my eyes. After flipping through several pages, he asked Len Ning in disbelief, do you offer so many food categories? Are the prices real? Rice, corn, wheat, and all kinds of fruits, and even various seasonings and other peripheral products. There are so many categories, and the prices are so cheap. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 610. Oh my god, isn't this just trying to please an old man like him? Of course it's true, Len Ning said with a smile. We have a vegetable base with high crop yields. We don't use much for our own use, and we are planning to expand export sales. The business department had thought about expanding its business to City B before, but there was no chance due to communication and logistics problems. But now, with helicopters, these are no longer problems. Vegetable base, Mr. Yang's eyes were full of curiosity. I am more interested in Thunder Base. Yeah. It's just a large piece of land designated to grow crops for the wood-type superpowers. In addition to making money through export sales, we have also developed some other industries based on this, Len Ning said, looking at the document in Mr. Yang's hand. The wine, seasonings, paper towels and other products in it rely on vegetables. The surrounding industries developed in the base. Yang Lao's eyes were filled with shock. Not only can it be self-sufficient, but it can also be exported. Can it also be used as a basis to develop more industries? If Mr. Yang is interested, you can send someone to go to the Thunder base with us. Len Ning looked at Mr. Yang and said, as the first base in B City to contact us, we can give priority to setting up sales at the Yangdao base. Point. What is a point of sale? Mr. Yang asked quickly. Oh, this was decided in a previous meeting with the operations department. It was said that you can choose a place in a city to settle. Who is Mr. Yang? Before the end of the world, he had done a lot of black and white business. He could guess what was going on when he heard what Len Ning said. Do you really have such a large amount? He looked at Lei with some suspicion. Although most people have turned into zombies after the end of the world, the total number of survivors is still not a small number. There will certainly be no shortage of food needs. One sales point in one city. Does the Thunder base want to solve the food supply for all survivors in China? Comprehensive rollout is not possible for the time being, but it is easy to add one more B city, Lei said. Yang Lao's eyes flashed and he immediately looked at Len Ning. We at Yangdao base are very interested. Please talk to Hall Master Len more. Although he still thinks Len Ning's statement is too shocking, he also believes it. The strength of the Thunder base far exceeded his expectations. After all, according to his understanding, Mr. Lei is not an exaggerated person. Our plan for the vegetable base is to send people from the headquarters to set up garrison points as the first step, Len Ning said. In the early stage, the goods will be delivered directly from the Thunder base. The quantity will be flexibly adjusted according to the orders from the major bases. After operating for a period of time, if we find that the order volume is large, we will consider setting up a branch in Yangdao base to build a small vegetable base, and send some technical personnel from our vegetable base headquarters in Thunder base. Let the branch in Yangdao base. The knife base can realize self-production and sales of most vegetable crops. Of course, crop seeds and the like still have to be called from the Thunder vegetable base headquarters. Yang Lao's eyes lit up. If the Thunder base can open a vegetable base here, it will definitely be a great thing for him. The technical personnel sent abroad are employees who have mastered the skills of the headquarters. The new vegetable base should be put into production very quickly. As for workers, we will recruit your people locally in the name of the branch. This can also solve the problems of some residents. Employment issues. Okay. If this is the case, I will give you the greatest support, Mr. Yang said directly. To put it bluntly, this is equivalent to people taking the initiative to invest in him. It can solve the employment problem of the residents of Yangdao base and provide huge tax revenue for Yangdao base. Of course he is happy with such a good thing. At this moment, Meng Mao appeared with several people. Only a few people passed by and quickly took the homeless man away. After the conductor finished all this, Meng Makai returned to Mr. Yang. Hey, we are short of food here, and it is winter again. There is indeed too little food that can be distributed to the public camp. Mr. Yang sighed as he looked in the direction where the homeless man was taken away. In these apocalypse, zombies are not the only threat, famine is also a threat. Many people worked hard to reach the survival base, but what awaited them was not really safety, but just prolonging their death time. Especially those ordinary people without superpowers, for them, life is too difficult. He wanted everyone in Yangdao base to survive, but found that he had no ability to change the status quo. Meng Mao, go ask the munitions department and ask them to send more food to the public camp tonight. After hesitating, Yang Lao said to Meng Mao. Now that I've seen it, I can't bear to ignore it completely. Meng Mao looked embarrassed and did not move. Mr. Yang's expression suddenly became a little ugly. Didn't you hear what I just said? He asked angrily. Meng Mao glanced at Lei Lei and Len Ning, his expression hesitant. Seeing that Mr. Yang's expression became even more angry, he finally saluted Mr. Yang. City Lord, there is no food at the munitions department. Yesterday. Meng Mao looked struggling. Yesterday, the food distribution at the public camp stopped. Meng Mao continued. It was said that the distribution of supplies will be changed from once a day to once every 2 days. What? Why didn't anyone tell me this? Mr. Yang was shocked and furious. Supplies are distributed once every 2 days, but the amount each time is not enough for one person to eat before the end of the world. Doesn't this force those people to die? Several directors were worried about your health, so they hid this matter. Meng Mao frowned and explained. In fact, the food stored in the military supplies department is also empty. Not only is the food supply reduced in public camps, but also the military department. It's the same over there. Old Yang staggered. If Lei Ting hadn't stepped forward to help him, he might have fallen. Thank you, Mr. Lei. Meng Mao quickly took over from Lei Lei to support Mr. Yang and thanked Lei Lei. Lei Lei looked at Mr. Yang's appearance with a somewhat complicated expression. How could this happen? How could this happen? Is our Yangdao base going to die? Mr. Yang yelled out of control. He looked several years older in an instant. Looking at Mr. Yang's appearance, Len Ning suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. He is a good city lord, but unfortunately, the world is really difficult. How much food is missing? I'll help you get it first, Len Ning suddenly said. For a moment, both Yang Lao and Meng Mao looked at Len Ning. Can Hall Master Len bring in food immediately? Mr. Yang immediately looked at Len Ning excitedly. The people in the public camp have been hungry for a long time. They had not been given food yesterday, so something must have happened to someone. Food supplies are urgently needed right now. If we could get food earlier, we might be able to save a few more lives. We have to go back to City A to adjust the food. Let's set off now and it will be delivered tomorrow at the earliest, Len Ning said. The Wood-type superpower who is reborn in the apocalypse. Author, Kiji Now. Chapter 611. Mr. Yang's face looked a little depressed for a moment, but he soon cheered up. Tomorrow is already fast enough. I just thought that if the food could arrive earlier, we might be able to save more people, Mr. Yang said with a defeated look. This is also the fault of the Southern Army base. If they didn't need to give the Southern Army base so many crystal cores every month, their Yangdao base wouldn't have to send so many superpowers out to kill zombies every day. In order to encourage the superpowers to go out to hunt zombies, he was forced to make a rule, saying that all superpowers who go out to hunt zombies can be allocated more food. The more crystal nuclei there are, the more materials can be distributed. In the past few months, in addition to ordinary people who have starved to death, there are also many people with supernatural powers who have died outside. This end of the world is really cruel. What I said about getting it out was not to go back to City A to adjust food supplies. Len Ning couldn't stand it anymore and finally said to Old Yang. For a moment, both Yang Lao and Meng Mao looked at Len Ning in confusion. Ahem, actually, I am a wood-type superpower, the 4th level peak of the superpower level. The eyes of Mr. Yang and Meng Mao suddenly widened. Fourth level? Peak. Wood type? Mr. Yang suddenly remembered that Len Ning had said that his grandson's healing system had reached the fourth level, and he was extremely shocked. Are level 4 masters of the auxiliary system so common in the Thunder base? It just so happens that I have some crop seeds stored in my space ring. Len Ning smiled sheepishly. Just give me space and arrange some people to harvest. I should be able to get you a batch of food for emergency use soon. A flash of light flashed in Yang Lao's eyes. The place is ready. Manpower can be transferred to the military headquarters immediately. After reaching the third level, the strength of the superpower will make a huge leap, and the fourth level must be the same. A peak fourth level wood element user, he was really curious about how powerful Len Ning's powers were. Then let's go over now, Len Ning said. Then he looked at Thunder. Lei gave Len Ning a look of support. Okay, Mr. Yang said immediately. Then he looked at Meng Mao. Please, Meng Mao immediately led the way. The group of people didn't walk long before they arrived at a farmland. There are still people busy in the farmland, and they are undoubtedly those with wood-type abilities. Len Ning looked at Lei. It seems that Yangdao base also has its own vegetable base, but the efficiency is really not high. Lei gave Len Ning a look in return, telling her to go ahead with peace of mind. He was thinking that with Xiaoning's move, Mr. Yang would never let go of the opportunity to cooperate with them. All these lands can be used. Mr. Yang pointed to a large piece of cultivated land in front of him and said to Len Ning. Then he glanced at Meng Mao next to him. Meng Mao immediately went to arrange the people in the field. Len Ning nodded. Without further ado, he took out 3 large baskets of sweet potatoes from his space ring. Originally, I wanted to send out some bean sprouts, because that is the easiest. But the bean seeds in my hand are dry, and it takes time to soak them. Sweet potatoes are simpler and more satisfying to eat, Len Ning muttered. Mr. Yang looked at the sweet potatoes that Len Ning took out, with excitement in his eyes. Cut it a few times and bury it in the ground. Once the vines grow, you can cut it, Len Ning said and looked in the direction of Meng Mao. At this time, Meng Mao had brought back several people. When the people came over, Len Ning immediately made arrangements for them. These people quickly left with the sweet potatoes, and then started working with the people in their respective teams. With a large number of people, the progress is fast, and soon everyone has made preliminary preparations. Len Ning didn't waste any time. He walked to the seedling field and activated his wood power. Something magical happened. In less than a moment, the sweet potato seedlings grew out of the ground. Then these seedlings began to grow thicker and longer at an extremely fast speed. Soon, in less than 5 minutes, the lush sweet potato vines actually covered the entire seedling field. Everyone was so shocked by the scene that they were speechless. This is too fast. I'm afraid magic can't reach this level. Don't be stunned, hurry up and cut the sweet potato vines to make cuttings, Len Ning said to the workers watching on the side. Oh, someone quickly responded. Then, without waiting for Meng Mao to say anything, the workers took action one after another. Mr. Yang walked to Len Ning excitedly. It's simply amazing. Now I believe that the productivity of your vegetable base is so strong, Mr. Yang exclaimed. This person's birth-producing ability far exceeds the combined strength of dozens of superpowers in his vegetable base. If there were more people like this, how much vegetables and food would be produced every day? Len Ning raised the corners of his lips. It's been a long time since I've grown crops, and they're all a bit rusty. She didn't take Mr. Yang's words at heart. There was a smile on Mr. Yang's face. Even if he is unfamiliar, Hall Master Leng's abilities are quite amazing. If our Yangdao base had a high-level wood-type superpower like you, life wouldn't be so hard. Mr. Yang couldn't help but sigh. Haha, if we come here to open a branch, it will happen sooner or later, Len Ning said with a smile. This is true. Although most of the people in the branch will be recruited from the Yangdao base and belong to the Yangdao base, they are bound by the contract and they also belong to her company. Under the long-term contract with strict conditions, she is naturally willing to spend money to cultivate talents. After all, these investments are nothing compared to the returns. A flash of light flashed in Yang Lao's eyes. I really want to go to the Thunder base with you to have a look. Then he couldn't help but say. We are welcome at any time, Len Ning replied. The word at any time was also specially emphasized. They had invited him before, but he didn't respond. Okay. I'll go back with you after Hall Master Len has finished giving birth to the sweet potato, Mr. Yang suddenly said. Previously, he was afraid that Lei Ting and Len Ning would deceive him and wanted to trick him into going to Lei Ting base, which would then be detrimental to Yang Dao base. But after thinking about it for a while, he determined that he didn't need to worry about it at all. First of all, he had some friendship with Mr. Lei's father in the past, and before the end of the world, his relationship with Mr. Lei could be regarded as both a teacher and a friend. Even if Mr. Lei wanted to move the base in City B, he wouldn't be able to find him. Mr. Lei is not that despicable. Secondly, with Len Ning's ability, the development of the Thunder base may really be that good. And they have already offered to cooperate with him. If he doesn't show some sincerity at this time, it would be too petty. Third, his daughter and grandson have always been his concern. Now that he knew their whereabouts, it was naturally difficult for him to endure it any longer. He had to explain clearly to his daughter, ask for her forgiveness, and take her and her grandson back to Yangdao base as soon as possible. Meng Mao looked at Mr. Yang nervously, with worry on his face. Yang Lao smiled at him and told him not to worry. Seriously, Len Ning looked at Mr. Yang with a smile. Seriously, Mr. Yang replied with a smile.